And now, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananji commences tonight's satsang with a Sanskrit peace chant.
Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We begin with mystic song by Sri Swami Lalitananda, played and sung by Sri Swami Umananda, Rajneesh and Neelkanta.
Our song tonight is based on a poem by Swamiji. It's called O Krishna. We are recording from the ashram of our revered Guru, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananji in Miami, Florida. Today is June the 15th, 2018, Friday evening, and tonight Swamiji will be lecturing on Tulsi Ramayana. This is series 2016, class number 109. And now Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananji.
Om Nilambuja Shyamal Komalangam Sita Samaropita Vama Bhagam Panau Maha Sayaka Charu Chapam Namami Ramam Raghuvanshanatham. Adorations to Lord Rama, whose complexion is like a blue lotus, who is very tender and delightful in appearance. Sita is seated on his left side. He is carrying a powerful bow and arrow in his hands. Sri Ramcharitmanas in Balakanda, verse number is 274. At this stage, remember, Lord Rama has broken the bow and Sita has garlanded him. Just at this stage, there was a great agitation all over that assembly. Those who were dusht, those who were not cultured, they were all shouting at King Janaka that this is unfair. We have all the strength, and somehow this baby kid has broken the bow. We shouldn't fall into the trap of that. Sita should not marry him. Spicing the story. And the good ones were saying, enjoy this occasion, it's a wonderful situation. The glory of God is manifesting. And feast your mind with joy. While this was going on, Parashurama appears, who is the incarnation of God. And his role has been to remove rajas and sublimate it, and to promote sattva in your nature. Tamas creates all the inertia. Rajas keeps you always involved with degrading state, lot of distractions. Parashurama movement is how to direct your energy to bring a plowing effect in your unconscious. Bring impressions in your unconscious, impressions of sattvic nature. Just to remember that all your progress depends upon your samskaras. Samskaras are impressions in your unconscious. Impressions are described like grooves, speaking in a very allegorical manner. Cutting new grooves is a kind of a mystical plowing. Mystical furrow has to get into it. Parashurama role has been in a storyline, destroying these wicked kings who were just egoistic, and their whole focus was on degrading type of culture. And Parashurama again and again cut them down. In the spiritual process, you must realize stories are not the purpose of scriptures. No amount of historical reading will make you any better than what you are. But what it implies, allow the divine potentiality within you to come to that stage. The stage of recognizing vices and virtues. And vices, negative qualities develop on the basis of rajas, tamas. So even before they develop, or even after they have developed, two ways. As they have developed, cut them down. And those who have not, that which is not developed, also have that aim to terminate them. Now, Parashurama movement allows the soul to develop righteous impressions, good karmas. And good karmas, once you have abundance of good karmas, it becomes possible for you to switch your attention from coming back to the world again and again and moving towards enlightenment. That's Parashurama's role, preparing the soul to come to that stage where that determination has been made not to move towards the world. Determination made is allegorically Shiva's bow has been broken. Again, that again can be understood in the form of in a progressive movement. Your mind again and again will work upon, should I have to come back into the world, things that I have not enjoyed? Lot of fascinating laddus and delicious things of the world which I have not seen. May I come back, see them again? Also understand that your mind does not present everything in a very clear manner. So sometimes you yourself don't know what your next life will be if you have not attained enlightenment. Though philosophically, whatever comes out as a last will in your personality, the last desire or will based upon your positive, negative, all types of desires that you have built up in your mind. A resultant develops. That resultant, no one is exactly aware of. So in the state of ignorance, no one exactly knows what future lies. Nevertheless, in divine plan, everything is accurate, precise. There is no error in it. But what I am leading you to understand that now, when you have developed abundance of sattva, and your mind can study both, led by satsanga and again by your own good karmas. You are drawn to satsanga, you begin to listen to scriptural teachings, you begin to be fascinated by attaining liberation. Even though liberation has no palace, no objects to give you any enjoyment, there is nothing that we can describe about liberation, but a simple movement towards who am I. Allowing that movement to become most fascinating and the source of inspiration. When that has happened, Parashurama's role has moved away and Rama's role has commenced. Just like you are in a school, you move from one class to go to higher class. But before you go, you are put into trial, examination. An examination is oral examination and practical examination. Parashurama is playing the role of this type of examination. In a storyline, it's just a fascinating story where everything was going so well. In King Janaka, Sita was going to be married to Rama, and is an occasion of great celebration. And there comes Parshuram huffing and puffing with axe on his shoulder. Such terrifying presence that all those people who were talking against what Janaka had done, and they were all like different animals creating their noise until the big lion comes. They all became frightened. And they all began to fall at the feet of Parashuram, announcing their name, their father's name, and offering themselves. And all Parashuram does with the axe. Shakes them all up. Behind all that, it appears that Parshuram is just as dull-wit as all those. But that's not so. The Ramayana itself tells you later that Parshurama knew who Rama was, but he wanted to let the world know who he was, even though it implied allowing his own personality to appear like stupid. That's a subtler point behind it. And behind all that, allowing your mind to understand two stages, pravritti and nivritti. The stage where you go on improving your karma and you enjoy more and more and more. But this never ends. You go on moving from one embodiment to another. What is the limit of your enjoyment? What's the ultimate goal? In other words, in that world of enjoyment, there is no absolute fulfillment. So Parashurama role switches you from that stage to a stage of coming to Rama aspect, Rama type of spiritual movement. Parashurama type of movement requires being focused on your daily routine, all the different disciplines that you have been taught, all viewed as a mathematical precision. What you should do in the morning when you wake up, what prayer should decide first, when you should do meditation. I'm just giving you extending the, but it is not an exact. Every person has his own way of spiritual sadhana. But in the early stage, your sadhana is always led by your ego's accounting method. How much karma did I destroy? How much more karma I have to destroy or build up? So that's, in that stage, Parashurama movement gives you, go on cutting down your vasanas. That's what you see in the sannyasa movement. Scripture gives you mundakopa pakyan, which implies very ordinary symbolism. The hair grows again and again. Sannyasis go on shaving it. And they grow it again. They shave it. That stage is Parshuram's stage. You transcend Parashuram's stage doesn't mean you stop all the disciplines. Only you must realize that you should not just be confined only to the outer modes of your sadhana. Your sadhana must move away to a deeper level. External realities continue, they cannot be disturbed. Waking up, bathing, and exercises, yoga, meditation, and all civil type of behavior, all that have to be intact. But that's not all. Rama movement must start. Ritualistic level to be transcended, but not demolished. That also would imply unnecessary involvement in ritualism. That is a big distraction. One says, I want to repeat Saraswati mantra, but I wait for the Navaratri day, because that is when Saraswati is the best. I'm joking, but try to understand that. Every time you want to do something, ask the astrologer. Is the best time for me to repeat Ram mantra or Krishna mantra? That also is its own good at that level. But if you are advancing, then you are not restricted by weather, physical weather, psychological weather. Having told you that, let me move into the story. So here is Parashuram with all that. Lakshmana confronts him. And Lakshmana has already scolded him a lot. Lakshmana is dhyana, meditation movement. Rama is jnana, wisdom. The meditation movement gives you that revelation of the immense power of Rama. Keeping that in view, Lakshmana goes on scolding Parshuram when he describes his power. सूर समर करनी करहीं कहीं न जना वहीं आपु विद्यमान रन पाई रिपु कायर कथहीं प्रतापु. Lakshmana is in his scolding mood. He says to Parashuram, those who are real heroes, they don't use palabras. They just fight. Those who are not heroes, they spend a lot of their time just shouting. How great am I? Look at my hand. Look at my sword. Look at my history. How many things have I done? And so forth. In other words, try to understand, also simultaneously understand subtle point. Early sadhana You look into your diary, you go on writing down how many times you have meditated, how many mantras you have recited. 1,110,000. Gayatri mantra, another million plus this. I'm not underestimating it. In its own, in a certain level, it is a wonderful thing. And it has wonderful benefits. But if it simply fills your mind with palabras, I've done all this, I've done all that, then that you are not sure. Veer. Veer means heroic. Sure term, Sanskrit. Sha means all that is auspicious, good. Shivam, Sha. Shri, understand, Sha term is very, when Sha, Ur is your heart. When that heroic feeling and understanding begins to blossom in your heart, you are sure. And if you are sure, you are not just bragging about what you are going to do. You are not interested in that. You will just do it. Kair kasai pratapu. Those who are not sure, who are coward. English word is coward. Sanskrit word is kair. You can see sometimes many words match. Even the English word coward means don't become like a cow. So cowards, kathahi pratapu, they speak of their power and led by their own ego, their exaggerated glory of their own personality. तुम तो काल हाँक जनु लावा, बार बार मोहि लागी बोलावा. Again and again you are attacking us by your words, and thereby, as if you have invoked or invited the spirit of death that's hovering over your head, Lakshmana says. And Parshuram held that axe in his hand. And he straightened his arm, and what says he did something to shine up that axe, implying that he's going to chop off the head of Lakshmana. Ab jani dei dosu mohi logu, katubadi balaku badha jogu. And Parshuram said to the whole assembly there, no one should blame me. This boy, a bitter tongue, deserves to be killed. I have controlled myself for a long time, but now he is on the verge of being destroyed. कौशिक कहा क्षमीय अपराधु बाल दोष गुण गणहीन साधु. Sage Vishwamitra said, O sage, please forgive this Lakshmana. He is a boy of tender personality. Grown-up people become amused to see their children doing fervent activities and showing up their strength. And Parashuram responded, I possess the sharp axe. I have no compassion for these stupid Kshatriyas. And I am full of wrath. And this who is acting as an enemy of my Guru. Guru is Shiva. And Shiva's bow he is after. Who broke the Shiva's bow? As if he was doing some seva for his Guru to find the culprit. And Lakshmana is interrupting that. So his Guru Drohi is acting against the Guru of Parashuram. उतर देत छोड़ऊं बिनु मारे केवल कौशिक शील तुम्हारे. Again and again, he sends out a response from his tongue in a very controlled and a very sacred atmosphere. When elders do something, you do not respond. You simply say, yes, ji, ji, ji. But this stupid boy, Lakshmana, is constantly responding, blabbering. O Vishwamitra, because of your presence, I have not punished him yet. Otherwise, I would have killed him and would have become free from my debt to Guru. गाधि सूनु कह हृदय हसी मुनि हरि 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 अरई झू सूझ अयमय खाड़ न ऊढ़ कूखमय अजहु न बूझ अबूझ. Vishwamitra doesn't say anything, but Tulsidas says what he said to himself, internally amused, as if laughing. Vishwamitra said to himself, look at this sage. Everything seems green to him. That means everywhere he sees his success, that he is triumphant no matter where he goes. And he's always right. That's called greenery is everywhere. Haryali hi haryali. He is considering Rama and Lakshmana as ordinary Kshatriyas. And it is just like someone were to be given a wonderful sweet, but it appears wonderful chocolate, but it is all steel. The steel chocolate given in stealth. And you think it is a chocolate. You can't chew it up. You can. So Lakshmana and Rama, those are not ordinary tender chocolates. He can simply destroy them. But he is confused. He is not recognizing they are like steel, unbreakable. They are not like the challenges he faced in the world of sakamya, in the world where you move from one body to another. Worldly success versus success that leads you to God realization. Two different things. But there are two stages. कहु लखन मुनि सील तुम्हारा, को नहीं जान विदित संसारा. Lakshmana continues with his scolding. Behind this scolding, the subtle point is to bring out in the mind of the reader the difference between Rama's movement leading to liberation and that early movement of Parashurama leading to formation of good karmas. In formation of good karmas, there is a totally different set of your mind. But all the energy and skill that you manifest at that level, they are little compared to moving towards God realization represented by Rama movement. And dhyana practice will show you the difference. So that's how Lakshmana is doing that work. But here it is brought him on this stage, dramatized it. माता पिता ही जहुरिन भयनी के, गुरु रिनु रहा सोच बरजी के. You have paid your debt to your mother, to your father, and now you are going to ready to pay your debt to your guru. Implication that you have. Now it links you to a storyline of Parshuram that also is allegorical way of describing what Parshuram role does. His father's name is Jamadagni. His mother is Renuka. Renuka once became distracted by some Gandharvas who were in the river and came to the worship schedule, joined the schedule, but late. The father Jamadagni lost his patience, and with his temper he said to his sons, Parshuram is the best of them, that chop off the head of your mother. See, scriptures give you all types of things. Because it's allegorical. All other sons, they wouldn't obey him. Parshuram didn't mind. Immediately chopped the head. And when the father said, I'm so pleased with you, ask any boon. He said, bring back my mother alive. And may she not know that this was ever done to her. See, this story is fascinating. What does it really mean? It means that when you are taught, first mantra you are taught, Matri Devo Bhava. A child grows, first stage, mother is all you have, mother is God. But as the child begins to grow, then comes a time, you don't stay with your mother, you got a father. So the moha for your mother is as if chopped up. And when you are pleased with your father, father says, oh, go back to your mother. Implying different stages of spiritual practice. The early stage seems to be, the higher stage seems to be contradicting the early stage. But as you advance, the early stage and the higher stage both become integrated and compounded. When H2 and O are compounded, it becomes water. This point is brought out in this subtle story. People simply go on reading them. But that's what the subtle point behind it. Another point is given. That when you are counting your success on the basis of good karmas, there is another error in the mind. Sometimes you have too many karmas to do, so you appoint somebody else to do your karma. And the moral behind is that your movement, spiritual movement, is entirely yours. You don't miss your meditation and say, do meditation for me. On the other hand, at a certain stage, people consider it quite normal. Someone goes to visit Ganges and says, when you go there, duck into the Ganges for me. Another person says, also for me. No one thinks of how cold the Ganges water is. So living a life of religion at that level, even so for the masses, it's a great thing. At least they are bringing in their mind the holiness, the sacred level of ashrams, etc. That has its own role. But this has to be transcended as you move up. Certain rituals have to go away completely. Certain rituals are, you go on practicing, but you transcend them. Internally, you go beyond them. Lakshmana said, सो जनु हमारे ही माथे काढ़ा, दिन चली गए व्याज बाढ़ा, अब आनी है व्यवहारिया बोली, तुरंत देऊं मैं थैली खोली. Lakshmana highlights this system. The Parashuram, sage, many of the debts that you have not yet paid, I will pay for you. Bring the creditor. Tell me all that you owe. Add the interest into it also. And I will pay for you. It's a humorous satire on the concept of developing virtuous karmas. This is another humorous parable that people say. Bhima did the work of eating. Arjuna did the digestive process. In that story, there is a different meaning, but that's simple point. When you are hungry, you have to eat it. You don't give to somebody else. Eat for me. When you are sick, you have to take the medicines. You don't tell somebody else, you are very dear to me, take this. In sakamya karma, that type of mind exists, depending upon others. In nishkamya karma, depending on God. A switch occurs. सुनि कटु बचन कुठार सुधारा, हाय हाय सब सभा पुकारा. When Lakshmana said those things, Parashuram became exceedingly enraged, and he lifted up his axe, and the entire assembly became agitated. A terrifying scene. And Lakshmana, on the other hand, Bhriguvara parasu dekhavahu mohi, vipravichari bachauni padrohi. O sage, in the lineage of sage Bhrigu, you are showing your axe so far, considering to you as a Brahmana, I have not been fighting against you. मिले न कबहूँ सुभट रण गाढ़े, द्विज देवता बरहीं के बाढ़े. So far you have never met a real hero. You consider yourself so heroic, just your own imagination. अनुचित कही सब लोग पुकारे, रघुपति शयन ही लखन निवारे. And all people were afraid. It's kind of a terrifying scene. And they said, it is improper, O Lakshmana, calm down. And Rama, just by a gesture of his eyes, he drew Lakshmana away. Lakhan utar ahuti saris, भृगुवर कोप कृसानु, बढ़स देखी जल सम बचन, बोले रघुकुल भानु. The answers that Lakshmana gave, they were like fuel. And the anger of Parashuram was like fire. And fire went on increasing. Seeing this, Rama, Raghukul Bhanu, in the family line of Raghu, Rama is like the sun. नाथ करहु बालक पर छोहु, सूध दुख मुख करिय न कोहु. O Lord, please be gracious to this boy, Lakshmana. A child that is so very simple, innocent. Dudh mukh. The mother's milk has not dried up from his lips. Let me give you the higher meaning. Practice dhyana, and you are being led by God. Now your stage is not on your muscles. You become a baby-like, child-like, Shishuvat. And the best of mother is the scriptures. And the scriptures' milk is still there in the lips. Rama is telling Parashurama, जो पाए प्रभु प्रभाव कछु जाना, तो कि बराबर करत आयाना. If he were to know your power, he wouldn't have tried to compete with you. In other words, there was no reason to compete. जो लरिका कछु अचगरी करही, गुरु पितु मातु मोद मन भरही. When children do some naughty things, Guru, Pita, father, mother, they all enjoy it. And becomes a source of joy. Considering him to like a small boy, please be gracious on him. You are समदर्शी, करिए कृपा शिशु सेवक जानी, तुम समशील धीर मुनि ज्ञानी. You have Samadarshi, means equal vision. Sushil follows righteous conduct. You are Dheer, a heroic patience, and great knowledge. All these great qualities you have. And Rama, Lakshmana is just a baby with a little milky lips. राम बचन सुनी कछुक जुड़ाने, कही कछु लखनु बहुरी मुस्काने. Listening to these words of Rama, Parshuram began to cool down a little. But hardly had cooled down a little, looked at the face of Lakshmana, he was smiling. And saying something with his lips. He couldn't read his lips, but he knew. हंसत देखी नख सिकस ऋषव्यापी, राम तोर भ्राता बड़ पापी. Seeing Lakshmana smile and saying something, again from toes to the head, whole body began to come under the grip of wrath, indignation. He said, "Oh Ram, your brother is very crooked." And how crooked he describes it. Gaur sarir shyam man mahi, Kalakut mukha paya mukha nahi. You say yes. Mother's milk on his lips. No, he has poison on his lips. He looks fair complexion, snowy white. But he has, in his mind, the mind is inundated by the bluish tint. This is satirical description of Lakshmana. Dhyana brings sattva. And sattva has at in the heart Rama. लखन कहे वहाँ से सुनहु मुनि, क्रोध पाप कर मूल. जय बस जन अनुचित करहि, चरहि विश्व प्रतिकूल. Now Lakshmana spoke up, laughed. He said, "Oh sage, have you not learned? Anger is the source of all sins. Gripped by anger, people do all types of negative deeds. And they They become the source of hurting the world. मैं तुम्हार अनुचर मुनि राया, परिहरि कोप करिया बदाया. O sage, I am your das. I am your servant. I have given you a deeper meaning of das before. Instead of being angry with me, exercise your compassion for me. The bow that was broken, we can't paste it back. You have been standing for such a long time, your legs must be paining you. Why don't you sit down? Here also there is satirical message behind it. If you have broken the Shiva's bow, if the illusion of pravritti, the illusion of going after the world has broken in your mind, you can't patch it up. If you can patch it, then you have not broken it. If you wake up from your dream and suddenly remember something you should have done, can't go back to your dream. जो अति प्रिय तो करिए उपाई, जोरिए को बड़ बुनी बोलाई. And in spite of all this, if this bow is really dear to you, find a technician. Instead of being all the anger, etc. बोलत लख नहीं जनक डेराही, मस्त करहु अनुचित भल मानाही. Hearing the words of Lakshmana, King Janaka was so frightened. And he said spoke out, please, O Lakshmana, calm down. Don't speak these words. And with this I will stop. This is a great drama, you see.
Please raise your hand if you have a question for Swamiji.
Pranam Guruji. It's a funny question. Should you be fearful of God? Because you have people out there that try to put fear about God. So should we be fearful of God?
You must realize that spiritual instruction is given according to the level of people. All people are on the same, not in the same level. If you tell a terrorist God is all forgiving. You are not helping him. You have to give him a color that your terroristic activities, you will have to pay for it. And learn to be afraid of that. Keeping that in view, be afraid of God. But when you're talking to sensible people, the fear itself is negative. In mother's presence, a child cannot think of fear. So it depends upon to whom you are giving the message. And the scriptures bring out different angles.
Thank you, Guruji.
Curiosity. From somebody asks you if from Vedanta standpoint, a person is born with a clean slate, or with, that's what people usually say. You're born in each life you have a clean slate. What would you answer, or why should I answer? Actually, this was my son's question to me. Oh, so in Vedanta, in yoga, he calls it yoga. So in yoga, they don't believe in being born with a clean slate. So I didn't want to get into too much of a. But what should
Here
I
you have to
answer?
understand their need for being a psychologist. It is, you may say, yes, it is to a very great extent. Don't worry about how we were in the past. You are with clean slate. But now slates have become computers. So learn to get into your study, inspire him, go forward. There's no need to go into the discussion that in the past you might have been this, you might have been that. Wait until his mind comes to that stage of maturity. In this stage, yes, you have come with a clean slate. But the slate era is gone. So try to get involved with your study, the aid of computers, and your parents. You came with parents, with people around you. To that extent, your slate has certain writings on it. It's too late for slate.
So join us tomorrow for
Okay, let me take
pranayama at 7 and guided meditation at 7:30. Sunday, Swamiji is into his new series on the Bhagavad Gita, and we'll have a delicious dinner. Remember Father's Day. Bring your fathers and bring your children. Bring everybody on Sunday, and we'll all celebrate together. Tuesday and Wednesday, 7:30, Swamiji lectures on Yoga Vashishta. Friday on the Tulsi Ramayana. And Thursday, all are invited to join in if you like. There's a discussion group that meets at 6 p.m. for about an hour. They're discussing the art of positive thinking. And if everyone could stay for about 2 minutes only after Swamiji leaves, we need to have a serious talk about mango yoga. Thank you, Swamiji.